you ever had a bad experience with public speaking? Well, I have. So 10 years ago, I was really privileged to present at a national work conference, and I was given a 15-minute slot and no more, they told me. I spent a lot of time preparing for that day, and on the day of the presentation, I only managed to get halfway through my speech. And in the 15 minutes, in my ear went a really loud horn and laughter from the audience. I was asked to leave the floor that day unfinished and completely ashamed. So from that day on, I tried to avoid public speaking as much as I could. That's until I was offered the chance to do a webinar, and I realized that it was time to face the fear of speaking again. I had missed too many opportunities, and that is when I found Toastmasters. So today I am going to be chatting with Julia and Lydia, my Toastmasters friends and colleagues, and we will be discussing our personal journeys in improving our public speaking skills in Toastmasters, with a particular focus on the innovative planning pathway. So if you want to learn more about how you can start improving your public speaking skills, have a listen in to us. Welcome, Julia and Lydia, and thank you for joining me today. Julia, would you like to share your thoughts on why you joined Toastmasters?
Yeah, Emma, thank you. I guess I will start just by saying that it's just something that I never enjoy doing. And I think if you don't enjoy something, you either don't do it or you improve, so that you can at least enjoy it. And as I got older and as my career started to develop, it was an area that in my personal development that I really wanted to improve on. So that really is the reason why I joined Toastmasters. And in my career, we reached a point, and in life, I reached a point where I thought this is something now that's part and parcel of what I have to do in work and outside of work. And I thought, right, I'd better find a way of becoming more comfortable with public speaking. And importantly for me, I wanted to be better at it and I wanted to really enjoy it. So that's why I joined, Emma.
That's a really nice reason to join Toastmasters. Work seems to be a factor in lots of people's lives in terms of taking up Toastmasters. Lydia, what was your reason for joining Toastmasters?
Yeah, mine falls along the similar lines. Verbal communication has never been a strength of mine. So even simple things like difficult phone calls and meetings and work and stuff like that have always been a weakness. I haven't had the opportunity to do any big speeches or anything like you did. So for me, it was more of a preemptive thing. Like I can see these things maybe coming down the road in the future. So it's something that I know takes time to improve on. So I'm trying to jump the gun and get in and join Toastmasters earlier on in my career. So yeah, work really is the reason why I joined as well.
That's really interesting, Lydia, that for me, the push was an absolute catastrophe that happened to me. But for you, you're anticipating that come up and you're trying to ensure that that doesn't happen in the future. I kind of wish I
yeah.
So that's really nice to be able to plan for that trauma, and you will then know how to prepare for it and it won't be as bad anymore.
Fingers crossed.
First step in Toastmasters is the icebreaker speech, and that has to be delivered in about 4 to 6 minutes. And that tends to be a chance for you to introduce yourself and share yourself with the club. I remember feeling extremely anxious about this and was really afraid of being judged. However, my overall experience was very different, and I felt really supported and championed by my club members to succeed. After that first speech, I knew then I was in the right place to develop my speaking skills. Lydia, how was your experience of the icebreaker speech? Did you enjoy it?
Enjoy is not a word I would use to describe it. I was ready for it because in Toastmasters I had done lots of other little smaller roles that kind of built up to it. So I felt like I was at a point I kind of wanted to get it over with, literally to break the ice, as the name implies. The hardest part for me actually wasn't the presenting. It was coming up with something to say. I just felt like I have nothing interesting in life to talk about. There's nothing of note. I agonised for weeks. What on earth am I going to say in this speech? And when the time came, I had it memorised word for word, which is, not advisable. But I got through it, and the thing that stands out in my memory most about the experience was standing up there in front of everyone, and everyone's like eyes looking at me. I'd never done a speech in front of people before, so that was really surprising. It's weird, the little things that stick with you.
It was interesting, Lydia, because I was there at your first Icebreaker speech, and I found it very interesting and very engaging. So it's interesting how people feel about it going in to do that first Icebreaker speech, and the planning and preparation that goes on behind the scenes. Even, what you're wearing that evening, and the words that you use in the evening. Sometimes that even goes out of your head when you get up there, and you just have to think on your feet. Julia, how did you find your Icebreaker experience? Was it good? Was it exciting?
Yeah, it was definitely an icebreaker, and I can honestly say I found it terrifying on the night. And I guess, as Lydia said, that's why they call it an icebreaker, because it allows you to sort of, you get through that first barrier, you get up there and do that very first speech. However, a little bit like what Lydia said earlier, prior to that, I had undertaken a number of the other smaller roles within Toastmasters, and that's a really important thing that Toastmasters allows you to do. So they don't, you're not pushed immediately into doing an icebreaker speech or a longer speech. There are other roles that allow people the opportunity to get up and to speak. So I had gone through a number of those at that point, and like you said, Emma, I had the support and the encouragement from my fellow Toastmasters, which was really great. So on the night, whilst it was terrifying, I had picked up and learned a lot in the previous number of months. So on the night, I really enjoyed it. Afterwards, of course, and what I'd learned at that point really helped then as I move forward to do other speeches. So yeah, it's a great foundation. But it can be an anxious time as well. But that's why we're in Toastmasters, to really learn to push ourselves that little bit further.
It sounds like, Julia, you were pushed and prodded into getting up to doing your first Icebreaker speech. I certainly know myself. I was told that I wasn't going to learn anything if I sat back and was quiet. So I was really proud of myself whenever I actually took that step to doing the Icebreaker speech, because as you say, you take on smaller roles like Toastmaster that will get your confidence up standing in front of other people. Did you find similar experiences?
Yeah, that's exactly it, Emma. I think within Toastmasters there's a range of experience among our fellow Toastmasters. So there's always somebody there whispering in your ear, "Come on, it's your turn now. Come on." Yeah. So there's lots of people prodding you along.
But in a really nice and encouraging way, I find, particularly in Lagan Valley, Toastmasters are very supportive and nurturing and encouraging, but like really pushing your comfort zone and your boundary levels to a point that you didn't even expect it was going to happen. I can't believe that I'm even sitting here doing something like this today. So it's good and encouraging.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's always somebody there to remind you that you've joined a club and you've joined for a reason. And if you don't participate, and if you don't you get on a pathway and keep pushing yourself, then you're not going to be able to achieve the goals that you had set yourself when you had signed up to be a member. So it's great.
And that's interesting that you mentioned goals, Julia. So when we all join Toastmasters, you have the ability to choose a path, and that's according to your own personal goals and needs. So there are 11 paths that you can choose from, and they all help to meet your own personal individualized goals. So the three of us chose to take on the innovative planning pathway. And this path focuses on developing a strong connection with the audience when you present speech writing and speech delivery. The projects contribute to building an understanding of the steps to manage a project as well as creating innovative solutions. And the path culminates in a high performance leadership project of your own design. So personally, I chose this pathway in the hope of producing a webinar. So Julia and Lydia have very, very different experiences for myself of why they chose this pathway. So Julia, can I hear from you why you decided to choose the innovative planning pathway?
It's a really interesting question because at the very beginning, I went on to the Toastmasters website, and there are a few questionnaires there that allow you, that almost get you to the point where they are telling you what it is you need to do in order to meet the goals and your expectations. So I completed that survey at the beginning, and it directed me towards innovative planning. And innovative planning is built on sort of key leadership goals and key communication goals that I want to achieve. And yeah, so far it has helped me meet those goals. I think with each of the projects along the pathway, I have been really, really pushed.
Did you find the questionnaire quite useful then to help you to determine the path to take? Did it do you think it has been a great fit for you from the questions and what your feelings of the pathway are so far?
Yes, so far, yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the really important things about the pathway, and something I didn't fully appreciate at the beginning, is that you don't have to follow it level 1, level 2, level 3. You can pick and choose. You can look forward further down the line and pick other projects along there that perhaps are more relevant at a certain point in your life, or perhaps that you have the opportunity to rely on something that you're doing outside of work and use within that particular project. So there's great flexibility within it, and you can obviously plan it as well. You don't have to do it all within a year or within 2 years. It's very much up to yourself as to how quickly you want to move through the pathway.
Lydia, what about yourself? Why did you choose the innovative planning pathway?
For me, it was really just a process of elimination. I was looking at all the different options and kind of narrowed it down to one or two. And I think the focus on projects and leadership is what interested me about it. To be honest, I didn't really know much about Toastmasters before I joined the Lagan Valley Club, and I had no idea what to expect or what the process would look like. So I quite like the structure of pathways. You know, it's a curriculum, and that sounds quite formal. But at least it gives you some direction, because otherwise you just go out there and, you know, oh, what will I do a speech on next? So I like that there's at least some structure to it. And, you know, all the pathways begin quite similar, I think, with an icebreaker, and then gradually building it to incrementally more difficult levels. So that's what I like about it in the pathways in general, and this one in particular.
So have you found so far, Lydia, that you have utilised some of the steps within the pathway? As I know for myself, I want to produce a webinar, and the pathway has actually taken me step by step to be able to do that. Has there been anything in work that you've actually wanted to do that has been quite useful from Toastmasters?
My work is quite project based, but I don't manage any big teams or anything. So it's usually myself and one or two other colleagues working on projects together. So I know that further down the line, I'm quite early on in the pathway curriculum at the moment, but I know that further down the line there's like bigger projects planned. So I think having a chance to work on project management and leadership in a kind of sandbox situation, it will be really useful. You know, when you're doing it on the fly in a job situation, you know, there's other pressures and things going on, time constraints. So at least having a project within Toastmasters gives you a chance to maybe work on isolated skills here and there that you can then apply to the real world.
It's interesting because not only has Toastmasters has been really effective for work for myself, but it's also been good for me as one of 4 girls in my family. So I was number 3 out of 4. So I feel Toastmasters is helping me to gain a bit of a voice Third child tends to be middle child syndrome, don't they? But hopefully, as I keep progressing in the pathways, I'll have an even greater voice, which my sister might struggle with, and I hope she's listening. So, as you've all heard, we have all our own reasons for coming to Toastmasters, but what we all have in common is the willingness and desire to change. So if you want to hear more about our journey next time, we will be talking about mastering the fundamentals, as Julia and Lydia have mentioned earlier on, and how evaluation and feedback has become a big part of our life as Toastmasters. Thank you for listening.